Selling the benefits of process modeling is very difficult. In fact, it's one of the hardest things that any process modeling project undergoes. A lot of traditional ways of selling process models have been questioned before, and some of them have not worked, others may have. But what we're offering today is a fresh new way to look at how process models are being sold. More importantly, the benefits of these process models. So we look wider than just the process modeling team. I'd like to introduce you to Daniel Weatherhead, who's our marketing manager in Leonardo Consulting. And he's here today to answer some of our questions and provide some guidelines on how process modeling or models can benefit from a marketing perspective. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks, Sandeep. It's great to be here today.
So before we get into actually answering the question of how process models can and the benefit of process modeling can leverage marketing, let's get some of the basics correct first. So Dan, in your point of view, what are some of the basic techniques that the marketing world or the world of marketing can inform and can educate the people in the modeling world?
Well, I suppose we're talking about a shift. There's a shift away from what we would call the old outbound marketing tactics. These are the tactics of the previous generation, the generation before that. Interruptive tactics that don't necessarily look to inform and educate, but were very much placed there. The messages placed interruptively into people's lives. So think about your television ads, your radio ads, your newspaper advertisements. These are the sort of things that shouted at you, okay? And they were one way. They were on one-way traffic here. People didn't necessarily go seeking those things. Inbound marketing seeks to be very different. It's where the audience, the reader, the customer is active in the way that they go out and source information. And we as marketers or marketing communication professionals are looking to not just push a message, but mostly to offer some value. So we're looking to educate and position our products and services or the things that we specialize in an education realm. So offering true value to the person who's actually on the other end. And that might be in the form of a blog or a video like the one we're doing right now, or a downloadable discussion paper or some type of template. And through that conversation, where we're positioning the businesses or the product as a thought leader in the space, as someone who can be trusted and relied upon. We're not just trying to interrupt them and sell. More importantly is that action needs to be, there needs to be a follow-up actionable. So the bit of content, the marketing activity needs to be actionable. It can't just be something that sits out there and doesn't have an endpoint. So if someone reads a blog, if someone watches the video, there needs to be a very clear, go and do this at the end of it. That all packaged together is what we call inbound marketing. And we start to use other communication platforms like social media, targeted, timely email campaign to push those messages and push those pieces of educational content of value to the customers at the right time.
I think it's very interesting that you bring up inbound as opposed to the traditional ways of putting it in your face, because I think a lot of process models tend to, or at least professionals in the process model industry tend to want to put models in the face of people so that they can so that they'll think about them each time they need them. But I also like what you're saying, in a different way to approach the same problem is to draw them in, offer the value, get them excited about process models and the benefits of the process model. So bring them in as opposed to pushing it out forward. So on that note, would you offer some techniques, some specific tactical steps that people listening in can follow in order to make sure that the benefits of process models are realized by the audience, by the correct audience, and they're excited, about having process models, which, as we know, are valuable elements of any organization to understand dependencies, relationships. How do we get them excited about this?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you strip back and use some of those marketing tactics, the things that marketers tend to use, it's firstly very much knowing very much what you're selling. Okay, what actually are you selling? And that's not something that necessarily is very difficult for people. Most people have a good understanding about what it is that they're doing, whether it be a toothbrush or an iPhone or a pair of headphones. you have a good understanding about what those key needs are. But where the I suppose the seams come apart in that process is that we start to not understand who we're selling to. Again, generally, we talk about these really big segment audiences. It might be a demographic, it might be a geographical spread about who we're targeting. And inbound marketing looks at a much more narrow focus or narrow target. We call that a persona. And a persona, you might be familiar with a persona. A persona is where you actually build up a profile of a target buyer. But rather than just getting small demographics, we start to shape about, what is the person's pain points in this area? What drives them in terms of their business? What are their challenges? How can we answer those challenges? What are the questions that they have? But not just looking at these things. What are the communication channels that this person may or may not focus on? What does their day look like? What do they do on the way to work? Do they have other pressures they bring into their workplace? We all have other pressures we bring into our workday. So let's actually address those in the messaging that we do. And so as we build up this persona of what this person looks like, we're then able to execute marketing tactics. And I use marketing in inverted commas because these tactics aren't just in the realm of marketing. They just happen to be lumped in with us sometimes. But we can then leverage a whole range of tactics to suit that persona. And it might be the sort of information that we're writing for them. It might be the video that we're creating for them. It might be the sort of language we use in the way that we construct a blog post, or it might be in the way we actually, or the platform we use to reach that person. And I suppose that's when we start to talk about communication channels. Social media is just another form of communication. And so if we think about things like emails, and digital communication, social media is just another way to do that. Companies have internal social media platforms. And so how do we use that social media blend to start to communicate accordingly, those specific messages with those specific people? That we might target them on Twitter, we might target them on LinkedIn. We might be using some of your internal social media channels. How do we start to engage people in a way that enables that informal conversation? We call it the digital water cooler, where they might be able to share their work in a open way for them to start engaging, where they may not normally. There's a whole form of those internal sort of platforms where people are allowed to informally communicate and chat and start to share ideas. And the whole idea is that as they share those ideas, that they will become more confident in the way that they build process models, build collaboration, build an understanding about what each other is doing in the business. And so what we're doing is we're seeing that very much an understanding of that persona reaching out to a desired outcome in terms of the way they're communicating, collaborating, using some of those newer communication platforms.
So I really like the fact that the idea of a persona and actually understanding your audience. And I know that there's tons on the internet about how to create personas and all that. So we won't go into that in this session, but certainly understanding your audience helps a lot. And love the fact that there is a digital water cooler. I can just imagine that as you said it. And in the process modeling world, a digital water cooler will actually make a lot of sense to have a place where people can collaborate and really exploring the communication channels in which collaboration can be enabled. You talked about social media. I think that is absolutely crucial, especially with the workforce that we're seeing these days. There are so many channels that you can explore doing that. I mean, my mom has about 11 ways to contact me. So, there's all of that. And in any organization, and the more organizations that I've been involved in, especially, I have seen at least one form of internal social collaboration point. So I think process modelers can actually leverage a lot of that and create their own digital water cooler to enable that collaboration. So when I listen to all this, I'm actually quite intrigued about when we can apply a lot of these techniques, a lot of these tactics that you speak about, Dan. Do we wait till we're done with process models to then go, these are available, everybody look at these, get excited about these? Or should we, at what point in our journey should we be thinking about marketing our process models?
As the marketer in the room, I'm going to say you should be thinking about that yesterday. You should be starting right from the outset. And from my perspective, the reason why that should happen right from the start, because as we go about building those process models, and as we go through that project, and then we get to the point of starting to sell those models more broadly in the business and have them used and useful, is that if we're able to point to places, even if people who aren't participating maybe the project, they can go and see where this collaboration is happening. The great thing about those social media channels, most of them, they're pretty open, they're transparent. And so by building that internal transparency, we're able to see the communications that's happening. If someone else has got the same sort of questions, they can see the exchange that are happening. We see that, online every single day in the billions of forum posts that go online about us all collectively learning from each other's questions and answers. If we can enable that within our own project, and when we say enable that, we really want to enable that. We actually want to build those communication platforms. We want to encourage our teams to be using those. And so again, taking away that informal layer of composing a very composed post and putting it out there and having it back. We want this to be a conversation, whether it be some sort of Twitter-like stream or Facebook-like stream or Slack-like messaging app. That's where those encourage that informal conversation or that informal back and forth that, again, is visible and transparent by the person over the top. And that needs to happen now. That needs to happen right at the start, not at the end, because then we're starting to look back and say, well, why wasn't that conversation captured at the start? We want to have these things captured from the start and have those strategic conversations now.
So it's really common for a lot of projects, especially modeling projects, to kind of leave it till the end. And I can see the benefit of actually starting way up ahead sooner rather than later, because then you create that buzz. And not only do you create that buzz and awareness, what I'm also hearing from you is you're creating an inclusive environment where people who are involved in projects like that can actually contribute to the project. So I think that's very valuable. And immediately I can see I'd be excited if I was involved in a project way up ahead and people asking me for my input, and I had some influence in the way things went. So I agree that the best time to start would be as soon as possible, or at the start of the project. So at that start of the project, would I, as a process modeling professional, bring along someone like yourself to be part of the team? So a marketing professional, a marketing guru, someone who's an expert in this field, to come along and join me on that journey.
Yeah, and as I said before, having someone who's a communication professional, whether that be someone who's a marketing person with a capital M, or someone who is just engaged in leading that for the project, who's able to point to people and say, we need to be looking over the horizon, not just at the project we're having to do right now, but actually at what it's going to look like when we deliver this, and starting to think about the key personas that we're going to have to address in the business to get them engaged and excited. To have that person who can tie that together, who's not necessarily doing the day-to-day modeling, that to me is crucial. Okay, the job of that person to tie together all of those strands to help the modeler who has the expertise but maybe doesn't have the knowledge to tie that to a persona, to tie that to an outcome, to tie that to a particular tactic. That's where I see the role of the marketer to help in those situations, because the modeler is there just trying to do the work that he or she is trying to do, and getting them to think strategically, not just about the work they're doing today, but what they're doing, how it's going to impact someone when the model is delivered and being used. That's very, very difficult. But having someone who's the professional who can create that strategic goal of what's going to be delivered and what's the benefit, and also starting to that point, create that, again, those timely bits of communication, whether they be social media, whether they be otherwise, within the bits of the organization, to address those personas that have been agreed to by that team. That person is crucial for me to help build that engagement, that current engagement, the future engagement, and also that excitement of delivering that unsexy model to the business.
So I think that there's a lot of good insight here. I feel like the world of marketing and the world of process modeling need to collaborate in order to to achieve success for any kind of process modeling project. any kind of process modeling endeavor, and most importantly, the process modeling journey, because obviously, as we all know, we don't stop at a single process, we keep going. So the ways that I can see a lot of the principles of marketing being employed in process modeling is more about the inbound rather than putting it out into people's faces. And then I can also see some of the key techniques by creating that digital water cooler. I love that term. And using personas and social media as a way to interact and understand your audience. Start at the word go. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait till the end of the project. And involve the professionals, like the marketing managers of the world. Every organization, every large organization at least, should have access to a marketing professional. So involve them in the project as soon as you possibly can. I think I've seen some great insights come out of this discussion. So I thank you very much for your time, Daniel. And I really appreciate those insights you've given us.
Yeah, no problem. Great chatting, and all the best on your modeling journey, everyone.
All right, no worries at all. So if you like this video, click on the like button. Be sure to connect with us, Daniel and myself, on LinkedIn, and follow us on Twitter. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.